All right, Rob. Sam Presti, who runs basketball operations in Oklahoma City, and Rob, Sam Presti is a great executive, fantastic executive. Obviously, he built that team that never won a championship, but had Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. All three went on to win MVP awards. All three will be first ballot Hall of Famers, and all three are just terrific players without question. And he drafted them all. And so you got to give him credit for that. Obviously, KD might have been a no-brainer because Greg Oden went first, right? Remember that, Rob, in Seattle? And
right.
Presti, I don't even think
was
there in Seattle. I don't even know that he was – I don't know that he was the one in Seattle that drafted Durant. But Harden and Westbrook were not no-brainers. And then, Rob, that team breaks up. Of course, Durant leaves to go to Golden State. And Westbrook eventually, he stays but is eventually traded. And, of course, Harden left early when he went to Houston to become a superstar. And now, Rob, Sam Presti has rebuilt this thing again. He fleeced. Now it looks like fleece. I mean, it really is a fleece because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard couldn't stay healthy for the Clippers. But he did trade Paul George in the deal that got him Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a lot of draft picks. And now he's built around Shai. Jalen Williams, great find. Chet Holmgren, look, I think he's going to be a star. And so they are rolling in OKC, Rob. Number 1 seed in the West. Got to the second round. Youngest team ever in the history of the league to win a playoff series. So they got to the second round. And next year, Rob, I don't know that they could win it next year, but they'll probably go, they'll have a chance to go a step further. And in a couple years, they'll probably be knocking on the door and ready to maybe win a championship. And so he's a great executive. And today or yesterday, he spoke to the media, Rob. And I was surprised because Sam doesn't really say a lot, a lot of stuff that's really controversial or newsworthy. But yesterday when he spoke to the media for 2.5 hours, Rob, he blamed 3 things. He said the reason so many of these stars, and you and I have talked about it ad nauseum, so many of these stars are hurt in the playoffs. Rob, most teams have a star player who is hurt. Let's go. I mean, we got the Knicks, Julius Randle was out. Philadelphia, I won't say Embiid because he played, but he was hurt. Cavaliers lost Donovan Mitchell. Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton. Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's not even to mention Dame missing a little. Heat, Jimmy Butler. That's 5 of the 8 playoff teams in the East. We go to the West, Nuggets. I mean, you could mention Jamal Murray. We won't mention him. He was
banged up. We don't have to.
He was banged up, right. The West was a little better. Clippers, obviously, Kawhi. I think just about obviously Phoenix had injuries throughout the year, but not in the playoffs. Luka's played banged up for the Mavericks.
Zion, Chris, don't forget Zion.
Yeah, for the Pelicans. So almost half the playoff teams had lost a big-time player, and more than half either, if you include players that played through injury. And Sam Presti, Rob, blamed it on 3 things. One was the NBA's new 65-game rule where you had to play.
Stop.
I'm going to let me get through it, and then you can go off. Where you had to play at least 65 games to be eligible for postseason awards. 2 was the in-season tournament. Now, remember, they didn't play any more games, but just the way I guess they were scheduled, he said, didn't give them as much rest. And then 3, the way you heard this, Rob, in the second half of the season, the officials let the players be more physical. And so he said those are the 3 things: 65-game rule, in-season tournament, change in officiating to allow more physical play in the second half of the season. That is why so many guys are hurt in the playoffs. Rob Parker, your thoughts?
No! Sam Presti, stop it. Chris, is this new? This has been going on for years now. Come on, Sam. Really? Kawhi Leonard. Can we just take Kawhi Leonard? Chris, is it this year that Kawhi Leonard's been hurt or the last 5 years?
Right.
Come on.
I don't remember a 65-game rule or tournament in any of those years.
There were no tournament. There was none of that. You're using it as an excuse. To ask somebody to play, Chris, 65 out of 82 games is a crime? That's a crime. Oh, my God. How can they play 65 games? Forget 82, Chris. Out of 365 days a year, you can't play 65 games? Really? That's the reason that they're hurt. They have better everything. Yeah. Better doctors, better training staffs, massages, Chris, everything better living conditions, better travel accommodations. I mean, my God, everything is better. And this whole notion, again, you didn't add more games, Chris. Whether you like the in-season tournament or not, they didn't add 10 games.
Right.
They didn't make you play.
Nor did you play 3 and 3 nights.
There you go. Or
4
something
and 5
of that
days.
Ilk. Right. To make
extra back-to-backs. None of that.
And the idea, too, that the playoffs and the idea that, my God, they actually let officials allow players to defend. How, my goodness gracious, Chris, how awful is that? How are the players going to react if someone's actually trying to make a play or a stop at the end of the game and they have to touch the other player? You know what I mean? Like, I just cannot that Sam Presti would let that come out of his mouth as the reasons why is total BS, total poppycock. Yes, thank you. Total poppycock. Hogwash.
Goobly goop.
Goobly goop. Thanks, Grady. And all of that other stuff, Chris, none of it makes sense to me.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Rob, if Sam Presti, and he did say, Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong, he has numbers to back it up, or at least, he thinks back up what he's saying. But Rob, if he believes this, then why are we playing 82 games? Basically, what you're saying is they can't play 82 games anymore. That's what he's saying. If 65 games is too much, then forget about 82. If the in-season tournament, which added no games, is too much, forget about 82. And they let you play a little physical. They played far more physical in the 90s and early 2000s.
And those guys played, Chris. I don't have the numbers, and we talk about it all the time.
They played 80 games a year.
They played. Games. My God.
You didn't go into a year thinking I'm going to miss any games. Every player's goal was 82 games.
Chris and I talk about this all the time, and this is no lie. When we were covering the league as beat writers, did we ever in our imaginations, Chris, go to the arena and go, I wonder if Patrick Ewing's playing tonight? Did you?
Right.
I wonder if
is he going to rest?
Is Kerry Kittles playing tonight? Like Chris,
never.
You never thought about that. That was not in our even our thoughts.
It wasn't even in the players' thoughts either, or the coaches' thoughts. It was not an issue whatsoever. And Rob, I'm serious, and I'm not. If Sam said these things, then what he was essentially saying is we can't play 82-game season anymore. And I'm telling you, Rob, and I don't think we've talked about it. They're not going to cut the games when they can sell out 82 games a year.
Oh, yeah, that'll
never happen. But you cannot,
never.
I'm sorry, it is disingenuous to have 82 games if you don't think your players can play it. Because, Rob, what if the game I pick to take my son to on his birthday and 3 of his friends, and I shell out $500 because I want to go see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that's a day he's resting because he's healthy as all get out, but he can't play 82. It's not fair. Now, Sam Presti may not, I don't know that he's right, but I'm just saying, and it's odd too, Rob, because his team was a healthy team. That was one of the reasons they were able to have the best record in the West, is because their starters, for the most part, played. Shea Gilgeous played 5 games. Jalen Williams, 71. Chet Holmgren, 82. Josh Giddey, 80. Lou Dort, 79. So I don't understand what Presti's talking about. And Rob, we've talked about it with Kerry Kittles, how the game is so spread out now and players have to cover more ground defensively. So it's tougher on the joints.
And that makes sense. That makes sense.
It makes sense, but Rob, we don't know. It's only a theory that Kerry and maybe some others have. We don't know if it's true or not. Because others, Antonio Daniels, thinks it's because they don't practice and play hard enough. They don't play enough games. He thinks it's that low management is actually the reason they're getting hurt. I don't know which one is right.
But
I tell you what, I think the league, Rob, needs to do their best to get to the bottom of it.
Right. And we talked about, Chris, all the off-season workouts and the trainers and, like, the year-round stuff that maybe is just too much. Maybe it's that stuff. Like guys.
Right. They don't give their bodies a rest.
They don't give their bodies a rest, and they feel like if they're not doing something in the off-season, like they're cheating someone.
Right.
It's okay.
No, there's no question about that. I agree with you. And so I don't know what the reason is. Those are some theories that we've thrown out there and others have thrown out as well. But I tell you what Sam Presti's saying, Rob, to me, this comes off like 82 games is just too much. And I don't think that's fair to expect fans to pay top dollar to get in the games, and yet the best players are penciled in for 15 misses. Forget getting hurt. That'll be another 15 or whatever. But they're penciled in for 15. So, and again, I don't put it all on the players, Rob. I've talked about it. A lot of this is team training staffs. So we'll see. It's interesting. But I think the league needs to do what it can to get to the bottom. And I don't think reporters should settle for, we don't know. I mean, they need to figure this out, because you don't want your most important games having your best players be out. Rob, the Celtics run to the finals is the easiest cakewalk I can recall in the playoffs. I might be missing one or two, but off the top of my head, I can't recall an easier cakewalk where the 3 teams you beat to get to the finals all were missing their best player for at least half of the series.
Yep. And Chris, the other one people talk about always is the Warriors. Their first championship, 3 of the point guards were all out on those teams, right? Every starting point guard.
Yeah, that was nuts. They still had to get through LeBron James.
Right. But I'm just saying, but they did.
Compared to this.
Yeah, they did have that made it a little easier.